Yes. Okay.
This
Hello,
is
hello, everyone.
actually I find this is exciting part to see the numbers increase and the people start saying hi. I kind of like that.
I know it.
It's
We apologize for a late start today, guys, but we are happy to be here. And all right, I think we're good to go on YouTube, hopefully. So you can always go back and watch these recordings, which I think is important, right? And I feel like there's always some things that we miss, or Dr. Saunders will say something really profound, and then I'm like, uh-oh, I gotta go back. Or you can do use technology and get the quick summary of this or the chat GPT recording or whatever it's called. That's what I would do. AI summary, I think they call it. But today we're going to talk about mold and the effect of that on our bodies. I'm excited to learn from Dr. Saunders. I know that this has come up a few times in some of our calls where, he's had some patients that have experienced some problems, and some of you have as well. And so I'd love to hear from you. Share that with us in the chat if that's something you've experienced or struggled with or have, learned about. And so this is episode 290 today. Uh, Dr. Saunders is a medical doctor, but he is not your doctor. And so we just recommend that you consult with your healthcare provider before you implement any of the things that we talk about today, before you implement any of the mold that we talk about today. So, no, well, no, not good. But kind of an interesting thing, I took my one of my kids to see the chiropractor, wanted her to just make sure that my son didn't have a deviated septum because he's been hit in the face several times. No, he just has really bad allergies. But if the stuff that we're doing for allergies doesn't improve, then we have to start checking for things like mold and other toxins that may be in our home and that kind of thing. So I am really excited to dig into this. I hear of a lot of people who keep getting different illnesses, reoccurring illnesses, and they find that they need to check their homes for something. So I'm curious to see what Dr. Saunders has to say. It seems like you're in a different location today, Dr. Saunders, and yet I've seen that wall, so it must not be different.
Nope, still my office.
Still your office, okay. I feel like you have offices everywhere, even though to you, you don't really, but it seems like there's offices everywhere because they
I'm
look.
actually I'm actually moving into another office within a couple of weeks in Solvang. It's a hyperbaric chamber, and they have an office in the front. And
Oh, I thought you were going to be in the hyperbaric chamber doing your office was in there.
I could do that.
we should do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly.
Broadcast from inside a hyperbaric chamber. Can you do that?
I, I don't know. I wonder if they would allow electronics in there.
Yeah, I
It's
wondered that
pure
too.
oxygen. It's very volatile.
I walked by somebody in a chamber yesterday when I went to an appointment and they were sleeping. They were totally out and the door was open and I could see them and I was like, "Huh, that's good. Good for you." So that's another thing we can talk about another time because we have talked about some of that, but very interesting. Is that a place that you're going to be overseeing, Dr. Saunders?
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I'll be there.
Very cool. Oh, we're going to have lots of good conversation coming up in the future. I can already tell. So let's dig into this. Um, let's see,
I'm
the
excited for
Wi-Fi
this
link.
topic. It seems like everyone, mold toxicity is on the front of people's minds. It wasn't in the last few years. It seems like it has grown in interest and in problems, just like in the very recent past, since COVID. If
Yeah.
you want to target your health, you have to address mold issues. At least that's what I'm hearing a lot from naturopaths online. Is it something that's like a more common issue as of lately?
It's not that it's more common, it's that people are testing for it now. And it used to be that nobody would test for it. And so if you don't test for it, it's like going, okay, it's not there
Mhm.
because you
Yeah.
didn't see it, because you never tested for it, you never looked for it. So there's a lot of people who are running around with a lot of problems, and they're environmental problems, toxic problems, and then they go to a doctor and the doctor says, ah, it's all in your head, it's just stress, just de-stress your life and you'll feel better. Or go see the psychiatrist is a very common, that's like since the 1950s, that was like the standard. if it's not on my list of 4 things, then go see the psychiatrist,
Yeah.
because that's your problem, obviously. And now things are changing a little. People are starting to test for it and going, hey, you know what? Some people really do have mold toxicity, and they really do react to the toxins that are in molds. And you think that molds are, you have to have like your black wall and where they had a leaky pipe in the bathroom or something, or your toilet overflowed and you've got all this black stuff growing around the baseboard or whatever. That's not necessary. You don't have to actually see the mold, and it doesn't have to be in your house. So yeah, like that. You got problems if you see something like that in your house. But that does give off mold spores, and people do have issues with that. I had one patient. He could not figure out why he was so fatigued, headaches all the time, just couldn't think straight, brain fog. And his wife said he was never like this before. I don't know what happened. So we looked around, did all his tests and everything. He kept positive for mold toxicity. So they went to his house, and they found in his bedroom he had one of those window air conditioners. And in Santa Barbara, it's a pretty there's a lot of humidity in the air, and so the air conditioners, of course, they collect a lot of condensation. So there was a lot of water that's collecting in this, and including the filter area. So you've got all this air coming through, and it's blowing through this filter, and the filter's wet, and it's growing mold, and it's just spewing mold spores into this room, into their bedroom. And so whenever it's really warm and they have the air conditioner on, it's just like blowing spores all over. They're breathing them in, and they're growing in their lungs and everything. And he had a real problem with that. But what's really interesting is his wife spent just as much time as he did in that bedroom, and she had no issues at all. And so it made me think about things like, how is it that you could have one person exposed to the same amount as another person, and that person has a lot of problems, the other person has no problems at all? Why? Well, that gets into the detox, your ability to detox, to get rid of those toxins, to diffuse them, and inactivate them, and get rid of them. So, and that's where the liver comes in. The liver is able to do this if you have the right supplies for it. So things like conjugation. So people have so when I do tests, I always look at their bilirubin levels, because bilirubin is a marker for conjugation. And there's 4 different ways that the liver detoxes, and conjugation is one of them. And that would be used for other things like alcohol. So, people with high bilirubin levels, and they're not really high, not like, hepatitis high, but, instead of 1, they're like 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, 1.6, something like that, the bilirubin level. So you're not going to get like brown urine or yellow around your eyes. It's not that high, but it's just high enough to indicate that your conjugation is a little impaired. So you probably wouldn't tolerate alcohol very well. People who go, yeah, I take a drink and I get sick, I don't feel very good. It doesn't make me feel good. That's an indication that you're probably not conjugating well. And that works for mold toxins too. So everybody's different. We're not all the same. People have different methylation patterns. And so, for example, or the ability to methylate, which is another one of the 4. And so if you have an impaired methylation, then you're not going to be able to detox some other toxins very well, mold toxins. So there is a long list of mold and a long list of mold toxins that they produce. So it's not a simple just just do this. You know, there's one thing that you can do, and then another one is sulfation. If you have low glutathione, glutathione is uses sulfur amino acids, and it creates a sulfation pathway that allows you to detox by adding a sulfur. It's another one of the four, and your body, your liver needs to be able to use all of these pathways to get rid of these mold toxins. And if you don't get rid of them, then it's going to be an issue. Where else do they come from? Well, you don't have to have mold growing on your walls to see it, because it's in your food. A lot of people don't know this, but food that's stored grows mold. So grains are often stored, and they often grow certain kinds of mold that produce toxins. And they don't go out and pick out all the ones that have mold on them. They put them all in the hopper and grind them all together. And so you get the flour, and the flour has the mold toxins in it. Peanuts are a common one. Aflatoxin from aspergillus has been found in peanuts. Peanuts are stored in huge silos. They grow mold, and the mold produces the mold toxins. And then they put all the peanuts in the hopper all together, and then they grind and make peanut butter and everything. And so in some cases, it's if they use like fresh peanuts, then they don't have mold. But the peanuts that are stored often have mold. So that is food is another fairly common way to get mold. Another one would be if the mold is growing in your intestines, and that's where you eat mold. So yeast, mold, they make toxins. Yeast is mold, by the way. Did you know that? They're both fungus. Fungus yeast, fungus mold, and they all produce toxins. I think all of them, except for, let's see, mushrooms. Some are also fungus, right? And some of them produce toxins and some of them don't, which is why you don't just go out and pick mushrooms and eat them, right? Because they'll kill your liver pretty fast. So yeah, I think most species of mold do produce some kind of toxins. Anyway, so part of it, the problem is the exposure to mold, and the other part is your ability to detox the mold. So there's two things to deal with. One is exposure, the other one is detox. So when you have issues that are unexplained by other things, clearly if you have a metabolic problem, you have type 2 diabetes, okay, then deal with the diabetes. That's not being caused by a mold. That's being caused by the glucose, the sugar that you're eating. Whereas if you have vague symptoms, fatigue, weakness, brain fog, and it's just not explained, do a mold test. That will help you to determine if that's mold or not. And it's not just any mold test. I find that the urine mold mycotoxin test, it's called. Mycotoxin means mold toxins. So the urine mold toxin tests are the most useful, because that tells you if you actually have the toxins. If you test your immunity to or allergic reaction or reactions to the mold, all that means is you've been exposed to the mold or the spores. It doesn't mean you have anything growing or have any toxicity like that's coming from your food that's not going to be in the immune system, but you'll still be excreting it in the urine if you are exposed to the toxins.
I've been hearing a lot about coffee and mold. I feel like that's a really trendy thing that I hear a lot about right now, and how you can get mold-free coffee, which is kind of interesting. So that's a big topic. Um, any thoughts about that, Cheryl? Are you hearing a lot of that too? Like where that's
Yeah.
a selling thing?
And who is one of the biohackers? He sells mold-free coffee.
Well, I was gonna say maybe David Asprey.
Yes, that guy.
That's
Yes.
him. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because he did bulletproof coffee. Okay. So that is definitely one that I'm hearing a lot about. And what else did I want to ask you? Oh yeah. What about testing for mold in rooms? Is that a thing that needs to be done, or do you just test yourself? What's the best way to do that?
Okay. And you really need to have somebody who knows what they're doing, because just testing for mold in the air is looking for mold spores, and may not adequately determine if you are being exposed to mold. So testing in the air, that is one thing, but someone who knows how to test for mold is invaluable in that kind of a case. Because,
Right.
like, my patient that I told you about that was having all those problems, and it was in the air conditioner. He When he looked at the air conditioner, you couldn't see it because that the filter was black, and it's black plastic, so it looked okay. It didn't look like it had anything. You couldn't tell. It
Wow.
wasn't until they tested it that they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is like full of aspergillus."
Wow.
So someone needs to know what they're doing, where to test, how to test. And so you can get these testing kits where it has a petri dish and you go around and you swab this and you swab that and that kind of stuff. And they're okay, and they'll give you some idea about it. But if you're having a problem and you know it's mold exposure, you've tested positive, then find somebody who knows what they're doing, and to test your home.
Wondered if there was an issue with my air. So I called my air conditioning guy, who unfortunately, because of Florida, we know our air conditioning repairman, because it runs constantly. And he recommended someone, and they did come in and they tested the air. They tested in certain rooms. Then they tested right outside the door to make sure it's not air just from coming in the house, but it's testing what's circulating in the house as well. So thankfully, I didn't have a problem, but he had specific equipment. He knew exactly what to do. So definitely hire a professional.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
So, as you're talking about all of this, the things that I heard you repeatedly say is exposure and detox. So, if we have the ability to detox, I mean, are we talking like we should be fasting regularly so that we're able to handle mold exposure? Or what do we do to better prepare our bodies to be able to take this on?
Um, I think working on your detox mechanisms is a good idea anyway. I think having the ability to detox, because we're all exposed to environmental toxins all the time. Yes, mold toxicity is part of it, but there's all kinds of toxins that can do damage to your body.
Right.
And so um, if you can uh, um, be able look at your detox mechanisms and make sure they're functional, and you can test for those. There are labs that do tests on detox tests, so you can look at toxins themselves and how much your body has in it, and then look at detox mechanisms and the different. Do you methylate well? Do you sulfate well? Do you conjugate well? All of those, all the different ways of detoxing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's good.
So for example, let's take someone who has. I had someone yesterday. His homocysteine level was 22. That's really high. It should be less than 10, and higher is worse. And that means he has a methylation problem. So all of these issues, all of his problems, he has a lot of toxicity problems, but by itself, the toxicity is not the only issue. Yes, there's exposure, but the other half of that is, why isn't he detoxing? Well, we know why. It's his methylation was off. So that's what we're working on. We're making sure that he has the detox mechanisms to get rid of those toxins in his body.
So, people who have that MTHFR gene mutation typically don't detox as well, I believe.
Right.
How many people have actually been tested for that? They say like what, 40% of people I think have that mutation. Is that
It,
right?
it's pretty high. 40 sounds really high. But yeah, there's a lot. Like it's fairly common to
Yeah.
have the mutation, but if you just have one allele, you're not likely to have a big problem with it.
Okay.
Whereas um, if you have two of them, then that's going to be an issue.
Okay. Interesting. So here's my next weird question because I just did a whole bunch of blood work. My bilirubin is low. What does that mean?
Your bilirubin should be low.
Like abnormally low. I mean, they weren't worried about it, but
Okay, there's two things that make the bilirubin go up. One of them is you're breaking down red blood cells faster, and then second one is you're not conjugating them well or not getting rid of it very well. So those are the two things. So um, if you have low bilirubin, it means you don't have a high turnover of cells, or your liver's getting rid of it very efficiently.
well, all right. I'll take that. That sounds good.
Well,
Okay.
because bilirubin is a waste product. It's not, and you don't need bilirubin. It's something that you have to get rid of. So less is better.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I just thought it came up as like abnormal. So, and they said they don't worry about it unless it's high. So I'm just
Yeah,
wanted to ask for
that's
your
correct.
opinion.
That's
Okay.
correct.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Mold affect the gut at all?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, mold toxins can affect any cell in your body, wherever they are. Mold toxins can affect the energy production. They can affect enzymes. It depends on which mold toxin it is. So there is no place that is safe from mold
Mm.
toxicity. So getting rid of the mold is really, or getting rid of the toxins is really important. Or, I've had cases. I had one woman who was growing mold in her lungs. And so we had to put her on inhaled silver, colloidal silver, to get rid of the mold in her lungs, so that she would be able to keep from getting toxic.
Wow.
And so
No.
to support your liver, you do glutathione,
Yeah.
NAC,
Um, NAC,
milk
cysteine is a
thistle.
great sulfate. And what?
Milk thistle?
Milk thistle is great. Yeah, for conjugation, helps detox. And then the other is methylation. So making sure you get enough B6, B9, and B12. Those vitamins are important.
I'm curious, do you find that a lot of people need B12
Not a
or have
lot,
yet?
but yeah, a percentage, maybe 2 to 5% of people that I see. I give a lot of vitamin B12 shots, and so people are low. I give them a shot of vitamin B12, and I say, I want you to tell me if this works, if you feel better. And if people come back and say, wow, like I felt great, like my energy came back. And so I go, okay, then I know you need B12. So then I put them on B12 supplements.
Interesting. Okay. Feel free to post your questions in the Q&A, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can post those as well. We'd love to answer those while we're live. I'm going to dig into some of these various topics covered in the questions here. So here we go. Terry says I'm type 2 diabetic, have cancer, and can't gain weight. Also, trying to follow the diabetic diet and follow eating from my blood type is recommended by my naturopath for treating my cancer. Both diets contradict. What do I do?
Um, Gosh, that's a good question. Uh, um, eh, uh, okay. What are the two diets?
So they
Gain weight. So you're trying to gain weight.
so yeah, type 2 diabetic with cancer.
Yeah.
Trying to gain weight, naturopath says use the blood type diet for treating
Yeah.
cancer.
Yeah.
And so the other one would probably be what we recommend in our
Yeah.
diet
I don't,
solution kit.
yeah, Terry, I don't know what the two diets are, but one of them is that the oncologist generally wants people to gain weight, because the more you keep your weight up, the longer you live, which is kind of obvious. You know, if your cancer is getting worse, you're gonna lose weight quickly, and you're not gonna live as long. So it's not because you gained weight that you live longer. It's just that the cancer is worse, and so you lose weight faster. So the oncologist generally wants you to gain weight. The naturopath is going to start telling you about your type 2 diabetes, and okay, don't eat certain things, lose weight, lose fat, so that you don't have insulin resistance anymore, because fat tends to increase your insulin resistance. So yeah, so they contradict. So what should you do? That is really tough. Here's what I would do. Um, in that kind of a case, what you want to do for the cancer is to avoid sugar, especially fructose. Any kind of fructose increases cancer. Glucose somewhat, but less so. And increases inflammation. So if you avoid anything that has fructose in it, that would be a good idea for both the cancer and the diabetes. Um, Also, you would tend to not want a high fat diet. Most of the fats, omega-6 oils, are going to have things that increase cancer. And excuse me, arachidonic acid found in that's the omega-6 oil found in meats. So it doesn't have to be a contradiction. If you're eating whole foods, you're not eating any processed foods. You're avoiding anything that has any added sugars, and you're avoiding anything that has added oils. And I think that would be the middle of the road to walk down, to say, okay, that's going to help my type 2 diabetes, and it's also going to decrease the cancer risks.
Richard has said, are there indicators that you have become insulin sensitive and kicked your insulin resistance?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the easiest thing is check your blood sugar in the morning. If you don't have a dawn effect, if your blood sugar does not go up over 90 in the morning, when you release all that cortisol, then you don't have insulin resistance. That's a great way to do it. It's an easy, just check your morning blood glucose. And that's kind of what we recommend everybody do anyway. Check your blood glucose every morning, and it should be between 70 and 90. And if it's between 70 and 90 consistently, then you go into phase 2.
Okay. Sally had wondered if B12 was given to people who stopped drinking alcohol. I believe that's what my brother-in-law was getting.
Yeah, they're usually getting a B complex, because there's like Wernicke's encephalopathy that comes from chronic alcohol use. And it's not just that you need more B vitamins, that's part of it, but the alcohol itself depletes some of these B vitamins. And that includes B1, B2, and B12. So B12 would be part of that. But it's not enough by itself. You need folic acid too. So the folate, B12, and then the B1, B2. Because without that B1, you can still get the brain problems and get seizures. So it's kind of important that you get all the B vitamins.
I did see a question earlier, something about, I can't find it now, but I think it was something about using mold as an antibiotic, or not as an antibiotic, but as penicillin. How did that become a good thing? How did mold become something that we needed?
Get antibiotics out of penicillin, out of mold.
Oh, antibiotics were first developed from mold on bread. That's what Karen had said.
Yeah. So penicillium molds. Yeah, that's the name of the mold. That's why it's called penicillin. The penicillium mold makes it, and they found in the 1920s. They go, wow, this stuff from this mold stops, it kills bacteria, stops them from growing, and stops them from reproducing. So, in the process of killing bacteria, it's toxic to the bacteria, but not toxic to humans because we don't make cell walls. This is all about making cell walls. We have membranes around our cells, but we don't have a protein cell wall, and bacteria need that. So the bacteria, it blocks them from making the cell walls so that they break open easily, and they don't survive. So that's a toxin for bacteria, and that's probably the reason molds make toxins is to prevent other things like bacteria from horning in on their home, from getting into their location. So it's so that they can be alone and grow and reproduce and make more of what they are. So sometimes the toxins are just metabolites. They're toxic metabolites that they excrete that are also toxic to us. But some of them are actually toxins to keep other organisms away from them. So, yeah, but sometimes a small dose of a toxin is a good thing, right?
Okay. Anonymous said, is there a difference between mold and fungus?
Yeah, mold is fungus. That's a great question. So a fungus, if you look at something like yeast, something like candida. So candida has the yeast form, which is just the single, looks like a little bacteria, little cell, single cell organism. And then when it gets into the mold form, it makes what are called mycelia. They're just like these little branches, and they branch out all over the place. And then they're still growing. They're reproducing, but they're connected together, and they make these branches. That's the mold form. So the difference is they're all fungus. All of them are generally fungus. So whether it's mushrooms or candida yeast or the Saccharomyces yeast that they make um, beer out of, or what they make bread out of, that's all fungus. And then they have different forms. The yeast form is a single cell, and then if they make these mycelia, then that's the mold form. So when you see that hairy mold growing on your wall, that's the mold form.
So I actually have a mushroom block in my garden. So mushroom blocks are what produce mushrooms to harvest, often from farms. And I have a used one. It's proven the company has produced mushrooms, but then they give it to others to do their second and third harvest. So we talk about the mycelium with them, and the mycelium is actually in most people's gardens, but the mycelium around a mushroom block is the connection and network. They call it the original World Wide Web because it helps your garden find water. So you might have something in your garden that needs water, and from a mile away, the mycelium can tell you, I have water over here and I will send it to you. It's incredible the network that mycelium brings to the earth that grows underneath our feet. It's quite fascinating to how it helps your garden and your soil grow and connect with the surrounding areas.
Wow, that is so interesting. So when we plow up the soil, do we disrupt all of that?
No, you might see it. Some soil has little white, it's white, so you can see the white growth in the soil, and it'll just reconnect. You don't have to worry about plowing it up. It'll find each other very, very easily.
Wow, that is so interesting. Just add water.
Just add water, exactly.
Love it. That's very cool. Oh, just, randomly created things in the world that aren't tied to anything. I'm just kidding. I
We
We
don't
have
know.
an amazing creator is what I think. Like it is just really cool. Like this stuff is It doesn't just happen by chance.
Mhm.
It's pretty amazing. Okay, so oh, we do have a question from Sylvester. Are you going to restock more of the Niagara XL and when?
Okay, so we did actually have a customer ask about this recently, and I don't know if it's the same person. Um, we have plenty of Niagara, but the expiration date is in August. So we do say that we have shelf stable supplements for 2 years past the expiration date. So it's up to you. We find it safe. I have to check with our supplier whether or not we're ordering more Niagara. So send me an email, support@bartonpublishing.com, Sylvester, and I'll get an answer to that question with more specifics.
Okay, awesome. Randy says, I have type 2 using Synachroma, brought my A1C from 14.9 down to 5.5. I do not drink soda or pop. The drink of my choice is bubbly, packaged by PepsiCo, no sugar, no calories, no carbs. By the way, they had a brand new one called Ice Pop, I think that just came out. It is so good. Okay, anyway. I also have been diagnosed with cancer. Doctor told me to use CBD as an alternative medication. Is that a good idea? Thank you for your answer.
CBD is alternative to what and for what? I need more information, but let me tell you this, Randy. A1C from 14 down to 5.5, that's normal. You no longer have diabetes. To
Yes.
go from that to normal with just Synachroma was that's so remarkable as to indicate that you probably had a deficiency, and that's why we made Synachroma was because certain people with type 2 are only diabetic because they have a deficiency of chromium, vanadium, vitamin D, not vitamin K. That's just part of the and not the cinnamon. Though those are the primary ones. So when people have like a deficiency of chromium, they could have type 2 and not use their sugar well just because of the deficiency. So you add Synachroma and boom, everything gets fixed. That's amazing. So now diagnosed with cancer, what do you do? Okay, look into alternative treatments then. There are some really good studies being done with anti-parasitic medications. So parasitic medications are the ones that we use against like the intestinal parasites and stuff like that. But everywhere in the world, they take these and they're over the counter in most places. And you have to, worm your dogs periodically with these parasite medications. Well, it turns out that parasites are eukaryotic organisms, just like human beings are. And the way cancer grows is very similar to the way a parasite grows. So these anti parasite medications also seem to be working very well for cancer. So look into that. I've seen some research recently I was looking at ivermectin and kidney cancer, and it was very positive. In fact, it seemed to be better than chemotherapy for treating that, and it was almost non-toxic. It was completely non-toxic, as a matter of fact. So yeah, look into that.
He does reply, it's colorectal cancer, but I don't have
Oh,
insurance to cover modern meds.
okay, colorectal cancer. Goodness, yeah, because that usually needs to be surgically removed, and I don't think I would do the medications anyway. If you surgically remove the cancer, reanastomose the colon together, and then do like ivermectin and fenbendazole. I think that would be a worthwhile way of doing it.
Okay. Anonymous said I heard that cancer sometimes uses maybe glutathione, but it says glutathione as a shield for protection and uses it to grow.
Hmm. There are, I don't know about that. There's cysteine is what's made into glutathione, and sometimes that is an issue because some of those sulfur amino acids are used by cancers, but as a shield. I don't know. I don't know about the glutathione. I can't speak to that. I don't know.
Okay. Elaine says, what are your thoughts on protein drinks?
Okay. Most protein drinks are junk food. That's my thought. You can get some protein there's something called chocho powder, for example, that is comes from South America, and it's just a powdered chocho. It's a sort of a bean that has a lot of protein. It's a complete protein, and it's not bad. But most proteins are um, hydrolyzed, and they put a whole bunch of sugar, sweetener stuff in them, and flavoring to make it taste good. And so all that good tasting stuff, it just raises your insulin level and prevents you from digesting and absorbing proteins well. So and it also turns on your mTOR gene and makes cancer. So I'm just not in agreement with protein drinks as a rule. People should get enough protein, and if you're not getting enough protein, added protein. Oh, there is one kind of protein that I often tell people to take. It's collagen peptides. We don't normally digest collagen, so the collagen has to be pre-digested. Partially pre-digested is really what it is. So they're peptides, they're short chains that come off the collagen that then your body can take and cut up into amino acids and absorb. And I have had really good results with that. And people who have like osteoarthritis, degenerative arthritis, with knee problems. I've had people come back, who had arthritis, and they come back and say, "Wow, my knees still hurt, but my fingernails are great." Because they're getting the type of protein that they need to make good. Well, this is keratin actually on the fingernails, but uses the same amino acids. So for connective tissue, I think some people do need to supplement that.
Okay. Our next question is from Anonymous. How is EBV treated? How effective is monolaurin supplement, supposedly antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, etc.?
Yeah, okay. Epstein-Barr virus, everybody in the world, 95% of the people in the world test positive for Epstein-Barr virus. And the ones that test negative because their immune system is messed up. So, like, everybody's exposed to Epstein-Barr. So the question is, why do some people get recurrences of Epstein-Barr and other people they get it once, and when they're 3 years old and they never get it again the rest of their life? They have immunity to it, but it's still hanging out in their body somewhere. We all have that virus somewhere in our nervous system, hiding out, just waiting for a chance to come out, right? And most of us don't have an issue with it. So I don't know if okay. So the question was monolaurin specifically. I don't. I know they say that monolaurin is antiviral and antibacterial and all that, and in vitro studies it looks that way, and that means in a test tube when you put all this monolaurin, it chokes out the virus and it can't reproduce and it can't grab onto the cells, and that's an issue. The other thing is I don't know if it works in vivo is the problem. So I don't know if it actually works in the body. I've had people who had chronic Epstein-Barr take monolaurin or coconut oil supplements with monolaurin and not get rid of the virus in that way. But we tried other things too. We tried Valtrex and ganciclovir, and that didn't work either. So I don't know. It's a hard thing to get rid of. What you really need is your immune system to get rid of it, because you really never get rid of it. Your immune system needs to clean it up, put it away, get rid of all of the viruses that are replicating, and put it in its place and keep it there. And that's what the immune system does best. So the idea that you're going to, kill off this virus with an antibiotic or something like that, I haven't seen it work very well.
So let me see here. Yeah. Manja wanted to give us some information here. Cholesterol 280, HDL 74, triglycerides 167, uh, non-help.
Non
HDL,
non HDL.
yeah, 206, LDL 173. Do I need statins?
Huh. Okay. Good question. So your cholesterol is high, 280. That's a little high, but the HDL is pretty high, 74, and so you have four times. Um, so your HDL is one-fourth of the total cholesterol. So that's a your cholesterol to HDL ratio is 4.0. And that's okay. It's not great. So your cholesterol numbers are just okay, like average. Like yes, you still have a risk. You're not in a good place. The question, do you need statins? I would say absolutely not, because it'll do more harm than good. So then the next question is, well, what about this? Okay, so then look at your triglycerides. Triglycerides being over 150, that's significant. That means that you are not burning fat very well. And in the process of not burning fat very well, you make a lot of inflammation. So these high triglycerides, it's not a minor problem. That's the problem there. And so if you were to become more insulin sensitive, then you had lower insulin levels, that would allow your body to burn fat properly. And as you're burning fat better, your cholesterol will improve too. So I think the first thing to do is to improve insulin sensitivity. The second thing to do is make sure your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is less than 4. So if your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is between 1 and 3, that's an optimum place to be. And those two things all by themselves would fix this, and you'd have a very nice lipid panel.
Okay.
And I actually wanted to talk about Omega Health. Omega is our omega-3 supplement, and I would say if you're interested in one supplement, you probably should get the for general p people, get our omega supplement. It'll help with inflammation, heart issues. It'll help clear your brain. It helps with joints. Dr. Saunders often says everyone needs to help with their omegas. So we're going to put the link in the chat here and then use code Barton Webinar for 20, Barton Webinar 25 for 25% off.
Is that okay? It used to be webinar 25. Is it?
Sorry, it is Webinar
Okay.
25.
Okay. Just making sure.
We'll write it down.
So Cheryl knows what she's talking about, because I wrote an article on that, on the omegas, oils, and for home cures that work. And so if you go into home cures that work and you want to read that article, it tells you all about what's the difference between a fat and an oil and a lipid, and what's saturated and versus unsaturated, what's polyunsaturated versus monounsaturated. All those names are all defined in this article. And then in the end, it comes down to, when you look at it, you say, oh my gosh, omega-6 is in every single oil, this whole list of oils that I put on there. And all of them have omega-6, some of them a lot of omega-6, and only about half of them have any omega-3, and only 3 of them have more omega-3 than omega-6. It's flaxseed, chia seed, and fish, and that's it. So it's really hard to get omega-3. That's why I recommend the supplement for everyone in the United States, because we have plenty of sources of omega-6 and we have very little source of omega-3. So I think that taking a supplement is a very good idea for everyone in the United States.
Yeah, unless you're eating like 3 pounds of fish every day.
Yeah.
You're not. And
Okay, one
this
pound of fish a day.
1 pound. This is wild caught too. It's not factory farm. So, and I do not like fish, and this has a lemon essence, so I do not have any burps. I do not taste fish whatsoever. So this is a good one.
Right. So many questions. Let me just see. What do we want to do here? Oh, okay. Can you recommend any specific amino acid peptide products? I've tried one and it gave me diarrhea.
Um, yeah, I wonder what amino acid would give you that, because um, amino acids, you're supposed to absorb all of them, and why would you get diarrhea from that? I don't know why that would be. Um, so I don't think I wonder, like collagen peptides. That's a reasonable amino acid supplement, and because you're not getting the only amino acids, you're getting peptides, which are short chain amino acids, so they're bound together. So I wonder if that would work better. I don't know. I can't think of an amino acid that causes diarrhea, because usually like the um the cells that line your intestine, they're called enterocytes. They need amino acids for energy. They actually use glutamine, which is the main, very common amino acid in all the supplements. That's what they use for energy. They don't use sugar. They don't use glucose. They use glutamine for energy. So a lot of people, when they have like leaky gut, they take amino acids so that they can repair their gut. So I just can't think of why that would happen. So something you're probably sensitive to. I don't know.
Mm.
Okay, we are out of time. Dr. Saunders, thank you so much. Go bless your
All right.
patients.
You're welcome.
That was
Bye.
fast. This was good today. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you, Cheryl, for your help. And we will see all of you next week.
Bye.